So this video is going to be a little different because there is so much involved in bringing a mold to life, and we just wanted to bring you behind the scenes and talk through all of the problems that we've had to solve to make the Procyon possible. So I've printed out every single problem I could think through, and I'm sure I've missed a couple, but me, you, Kyle, and a park bench. Let's do this thing. That house is crazy.
It's got a tree house next to it too.
Yeah, what? Oh my gosh. Okay, can you scoot over a little bit? I feel like we're oddly close to one another. Oh my God. So I thought we could just go chronologically from start to finish. And I guess problem number one is we had to buy the mold and get the mold.
Correct.
I talked about that in a previous video.
Yep.
So you weren't there for that. What was your experience of that though?
I don't know, it was like a random Thursday, Friday afternoon. You came back to the warehouse with the mold in various pieces in the back of an SUV. And then you were trying to explain how they all fit together as we were lifting it up on a dock, then onto our mold cart, which is a lot of work there, but it looks completely different than every other mold. So it didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense to me either. And I guess I was just acting like it did make sense to me when I showed you.
You were really confident that you knew what was happening, which is great because I need just one person to be confident and I can figure out the rest.
Did you know, like what had I told you at that point? Did you know I was getting the mold?
I knew you were going to get the mold.
Okay.
I think nobody else, as far as like the people that I was working with on the day-to-day knew.
Yeah.
So.
I guess we might get to this in future parts of this story, but I often just show up with things.
Yes.
And I'm like, here, we need to do this.
Often, yes, yes.
Most of getting the mold was like kind of expected, but I think the first true problem we had to solve was the eye bolt that I talked about in a previous video.
Yep.
And luckily, that was a solved problem. Basically, when I arrived, they didn't have a way to pick up the mold, and I had just grabbed the literal largest eye bolt I could find at Home Depot, and it fit. What are the chances of that?
Honestly, I don't know. I probably would have not done that, but
What would you have done?
I don't know. Honestly, it's something we would have thought would have been with the mold. Like, it's kind of a standard thing, because you're not just like two people are team lifting that mold to where it was. Like, you need a forklift, you need something heavy. So
speaking of things that you'd think came with the mold, that's where problem number two came in, which was a locating ring. For people who don't know, there is an actual piece of a mold that is called a locating ring because it locates it on the machine. Basically, locating just means that it takes the hole on the nozzle where the plastic is coming out of and the hole on the mold, which is where the plastic is going into, and make sure those are aligned perfectly. So you really can't or shouldn't run a mold without a locating ring.
I was surprised to see it didn't have one.
Did I ever tell you I didn't realize it till I got back?
I think you did. You just kind of like, when you were working on Procyon, I was busy powering through as much canyon as possible. So like Matt and I were full steam ahead. So some of those issues kind of went over me, and they just didn't get out to my my realm.
You were busy breaking the canyon mold while
breaking
I was trying
it in.
to fix.
Yes.
So locating ring, and then also a mold heater. What do we call those?
I've just been referring to it as a mold heater because I don't know what else to call it really.
Well, everyone calls them DMEs, but DME is the company that makes it, and they make a ton of other stuff. So like DME is not the accurate name, but anyway, so we'll just call it a mold heater.
Yeah.
Basically, do you want to explain why we need a mold heater?
So on the Procyon, so the inner core has a sprue on it. So when it injects, it leaves about 2 inches of plastic there as it's filling in the mold. What the Procyon has is a hot runner, which basically means it's hot all the way through the inject point. So it's filling the disc up, and then it continues to be molten when it comes out. That way we don't have a sprue, or we have a tiny
baby sprue
that we have on it, but it reduces the waste and allows us just to more consistently just kind of keep running through with it. But we have to control that temperature somehow, and that's what this mold heater does, is it actually maintains the temperature inside that area where a sprue would go on the disc you've seen of ours in the past.
Without getting too much into the weeds, we made an entire video on that. So if people are interested on why sprues exist on some of our molds and whatever, basically a hot runner or a hot tip is exactly what Kyle explained. And we actually, like, there are pros and cons, but there is something nice about a hot tip, right? There's some things that are annoying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's solved.
overall, nice.
It's solved other problems that we've had to an extent, but it's very easy to work with after you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I guess we could boil down a hot runner system into one thing, which is just one added variable.
Yeah.
And in injection molding, what you do on a day-to-day basis, your job is to try to isolate all the variables and fix them. And removing variables is helpful. So less variable is good,
Yeah.
but that just adds a new variable to it. I think if we got a mold with a hot tip like a year ago, you probably would have freaked out a little bit more. But now you've just had so much time with a valve gate, which has similarities to it,
Yeah.
that
The thing is I'd probably just go with a standard sprue any day right now. I don't know.
you think you'd choose cold sprue bushing?
I think so. I think that's the one I like the best, but they all work. Like, we figured them all out.
Yeah.
Thanks to Google, that doesn't suggest anything helpful, but it's like you could try running it colder, or you could try running it hotter.
I'm not sure how much I've talked about that in videos, that every injection molding troubleshooting guide says you could try this, or you could try the opposite of
Yeah.
that. And it's like, that's unhelpful. I need a direction.
Yeah. I mean, when I was learning the hot runner, it was straight to Google, straight to the injection molding subreddit, because that's a very helpful place.
Yes.
And it was all over the place. So ultimately, I settled on trying multiple things. We found something that worked, and I've stuck with it for the last, 4 weeks now. So
Yeah.
we're there.
So we got a mold heater, we got a locating ring, we got the mold on the table. Everything looked pretty good. And then I think that led us to day one of actually just testing, right?
Yeah. We still had the thermocouple that was damaged at the time.
Okay, yes. So when we got the mold heater, we did identify that there's 2 zones on the hot tip, and one of the zones, the thermocouple was literally just broken, like the wire was just off. But instead of fixing it at the moment, it was, let's just test the whole mold, because we're gonna need to fix a bunch of different things.
Yep.
That I guess we'll talk about in a second, like engraving the mold,
Oh, yeah.
water lines, all that jazz. But day one, testing the mold, what do you remember from that day?
Oh, most of that day was a blur. It was just trying to figure it out. I remember we always try it with our base plastic blend. And I remember we got bored of that after about 15 minutes.
Whoa, hold on. You're already at like 11:30 a.m. So I got there at 6 because
Oh.
I think you had to take
Jeez.
the kids to school or something.
Yeah.
And so that's not a euphemism. Kyle has children.
Yes.
We had disassembled the whole mold to make sure
Yes.
everything was good. So I got in early to put it together.
Yep.
By the time you got there, the plastic was drying and we were able to pick it up and get it in the
Yes.
machine. By the time we got it in the machine,
Yep.
what do you remember now?
So we got it in the machine. Then we had to start connecting things and testing them. So the water lines,
Yes.
which immediately was issues. We had 2 water lines that were hitting one another.
Well, we
which
couldn't
was
even,
one.
our water lines couldn't even reach.
Oh,
so
and
there's
then we
a
had to cut new.
manifold on the back of the machine that has all the water lines. And we've literally hooked them up and connected them in a way that they work with the inner core, the ozone, the dune, the canyon. And this mold, instead of having water lines on the side, they're top and bottom, right?
Yep.
So our water lines wouldn't even connect, so we had to change out the water lines entirely.
Yes.
Then, do you remember what else wouldn't connect? Connect's the wrong word. Wouldn't hit.
Oh, the nozzle. So the nozzle of the actual injection part of the machine would not get all the way through. And so we had to change not only the nozzle tip, we had to add an extender onto the injection tip as well, so that we could get far enough while making sure that the heater band, what actually maintains that temperature at the front of the injection points, while making sure that didn't hit going
Yeah.
in. And none of that is easy because not anything on there is transparent so we can see it. So we were
Yeah, you can't
listening
even see in there.
while trying to angle to see it the right angle, because none of it's really clear. So
I can't imagine how much stress and how much time that would have been had we not had the last year and a half before us.
we had to do it on inner core. So it made it easy to figure out.
The first day we were ever supposed to make a disc,
Yeah.
we didn't make a disc because we couldn't figure that out.
Yeah, so we were able to solve that. It was only like an hour of time, but it took
Yeah.
a really big chunk of the morning that we
Yeah.
didn't plan on doing because it didn't look like we were going to need to do that
Yeah.
until it was in the machine, and you just don't always know.
One thing I've struggled with, well, we're a small business, so cash flow would not be a surprise struggle for a small business. But one thing I've struggled with internally is, when do I buy spare parts that we do not need at the moment, so that when we do need them, we have them? Because the second we need them, they're all of a sudden worth way more than they are when we don't, like in the moment that we need whatever.
Right.
All of a sudden they're worth so much more money, because right then it could be the singular thing that shuts production down. So recently, Chris, our R&D guy, was ordering some stuff, and I had him order some extra hose.
Yep.
And I was like, I literally almost didn't, because I was like, nah, we don't need the hose. And then he ordered it, and that day we needed it. So that would have stopped, just water lines would have stopped us, which is so dumb.
Yeah, we wouldn't have really been able to run at all. That's a very important part of the actual injection molding process, or the water lines, and we physically didn't have enough to do it. And we were short maybe a foot.
Crazy. Yeah. So then, what is that, 4 hours of our day? Which means we started heating up the machine and getting ready to run base. Like you said, we started running base. We didn't make a perfect disc, but we were making discs, and we had a meeting, what, an hour after that? Or
hour and a half, something like that, yeah.
So we were like, let's switch to premium. So we started making premium, which led to the next problem.
I don't even remember what that problem was. That day was like a blur.
It was 190 grams.
Oh yeah, that whole thing. Yeah.
Now granted, we hadn't PDJ approved it yet, so we didn't know the max allowed weight.
We were pretty sure it wasn't 190 grams. Yeah.
It's definitely under 180, probably farther under that too. So then we really didn't test it enough. We have like a bar we try to hit for testing, and we just were like, instead of keeping testing, we have a meeting now in like, what, 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Let's just put this other plastic in. So we just rushed through that, had to push our meeting back 15 minutes, but we made a good disc.
We did. It felt like a win on the day. Sometimes that one disc is all we need to get us moving to the next day.
Which we also made an entirely separate video about the new plastic blend. But before that day, we had also been working for the last, what, month to bring a new plastic blend to life that we tested. Going back as far as June, early June, we tested it. And the reason for that blend was because we wanted to improve the stiffness and grip of our premium plastic, but additionally, we knew we probably needed something that was gonna be light enough. And on that day, our concern was confirmed, which was, until that point, we did not have a plastic that would have been light enough in the Procyon at all. In the whole warehouse.
We had nothing.
So quick recap. A month of engineering a new plastic blend. That day being like basically years of learning coming together. We had backup materials on hand, like water lines. We had learned different lessons through fitting up new nozzles, stuff like that. I mean, there were so many things that day that I think a year ago, Kyle and Jesse would have freaked out about. That was just like, oh, we've seen this problem before. We know how to solve it, right?
Yeah. And on top of that, we had water lines that were leaking, so we were fixing them in the moment. Yeah, we had 2 water lines on it that just were leaking water, but not like crazy leaking, just enough to create an issue.
Well, you're running a mold and water's just spilling, and I think a previous life of us would have been like, "What's going on?
Stop immediately!
Yes, stop everything."
Instead, we just changed where we put things, and we left those 2 just blank because we knew we were pulling the mold out after a day.
Yeah. Well, pulling the mold out after a week, because you actually ran a full trial that week.
Oh yeah.
And we learned that 2 of the water lines were literally bumping into each other when the mold would close. So we had to stop using that water line.
Yeah, we had a date that we were going to pull it. So as long as it was functioning and it looked like it was functioning well, we could keep powering through just to learn enough about it. Our trial time was so limited there because we knew we had to pull it. We knew we had to take it out. And then we knew as soon as it got back, we had to put it right back in and hit the ground running. We didn't have a huge window to trial it at that point.
So initial trial went well enough that we were able to send the disc to the PDGA, which, if you didn't already know, to get a disc PDGA approved, it has to meet certain specifications. And then you also have to pay $500. So paid the $500, it got PDGA approved. And with that, we re-engraved the bottom of the mold. Because previously the mold had engraving that we're unfortunately just not allowed to talk about. So actually in all the test parts we did, we used an orbital sander and literally just sanded off the bottom. So I sent the disc to be PDJ approved, and I paid for a little quicker shipping with UPS so it would get there and get approved, because approval usually gets published on Monday. And I had already scheduled to re-engrave the mold that week. Now, to secure the name and be really confident that we're good to go with the name, I really like to wait until the approval happens, because then no one else in disc golf, just as far as mutual respect is concerned, no one else has chosen that name. And unfortunately, UPS delayed the shipment for some reason. It then got there on Monday, which meant it was going to be approved the following Monday. So for the first time ever, incredibly uncomfortably, I got it engraved without the name being officially confirmed, which you might think is a really risky move on a one-of-one mold. And it is. Every time I had those feelings, I just stuffed it. I like wouldn't let myself think about it. Did you think about it at all?
No. I
Must be nice.
I trust Jesse, so.
The way we engraved it was actually really cool. We collaborated again with Protoflight on this one, and we re-engraved it with a laser. So that was a totally new process for us, a laser engraving. Really cool new process. I'm really excited for the potential, knowing that we could use a laser moving forward. But to engrave it, I didn't just ship the piece to Protoflight. Because it's a one-on-one mold, I actually drove it out there, got it done, and then drove back. So PDJ approval, we got the mold engraved. Oh, we had to choose the name too.
Yes.
You want to riff on that one?
No. There's a lot that went into this name process.
No one will know unless I say why you just said that. Yeah. But basically, we posted a reel asking people for name ideas and got way more than we expected. I think it was like over 3,500, right?
It was a lot.
It was a crazy amount of names. And one of the early ones to come in was Procyon. And the person said, hey, it's not only the name of a star, so it fits your naming convention, but it's the name for the genus of mammals that raccoons are in. And we were all like, initially, Procyon is a sick idea. It was one of the first ones we saw. And Kyle immediately was like, hard pass. I know that guy. That's a buddy of mine. I don't want to hang a photo of him in our warehouse. And guess whose photo is hung in our warehouse?
Yep. That one's for you, Kevin.
Yeah. You know what we also didn't talk about? I did something else while getting it engraved that applies to something else, but friction pullers. On day one, you had to learn what friction pullers were.
I would argue I'm still learning it, but yes, the friction pullers was a new system, which you were somewhat familiar with.
Yeah, because we had it on the mini mold, and we had it on the inner core mold, and it didn't work on the inner core mold. We talked about that in a previous video too, but basically, we don't like them, is where we're at.
Oh, it's not my favorite piece. It's not just variables in making plastic that makes the friction pullers fail or not pull the mold open. It could be the weather conditions on a given day. If it's more humid in Denver or if it's hotter or colder, like it changes. It could be working perfectly on Monday, and then Tuesday I have to change everything because the temperature and the conditions are just different in the warehouse. So it's just very temperamental, where a chain or something else is not that temperamental, although not without their own issue.
Well, speaking of variables, it is a variable variable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's constantly changing.
Yep.
But it wasn't brand new for us, because I had experienced it with our manufacturer when we were making the mini and the inner core.
Yep.
So I kind of had some experience, but it was really bad experience. And it made me doubt them, which leads to the next thing, which is when we were engraving it, we also just milled out and then threaded some bolt holes so that we can potentially add something to the exterior that's a different version of stripper plate actuation in the future if the friction pullers ever fail. Or if we just decide we don't want to use the friction pullers anymore, which I think we're pretty close to that decision.
I would be fine if they were gone. Yeah.
And then, I mean, what happened when I brought the mold back? It was just go time.
Yeah, you got it all put back together. We put it back in the machine, I think the next day. And then it became run our trial just to try to get it up and running, make sure everything was good.
And everything was not good.
No, there was plenty of things that have been an issue since then. So
Well, I remember immediately we knew, based on the PDJ approval, it was 175.1 gram max weight.
Yes.
And you were making 179 gram discs on day one with the new blend.
yes, so we blended that very first blend of plastic and could not get a disc that was good under 179 grams, which is super stressful. Because we had tested this plastic and it was 170 grams in ozone, which by the numbers should have been just fine in
Totally.
Procyon. And so we mixed together an entire barrel and we start running and it's in the dryer and it's 179 grams. So I don't know, we ran for 3 hours, just like let the mold run and not to try to make it a legal disc, just to try to get the hang of the parameters and figure it out.
We had what, 6 Gaylords of that plastic?
Yeah, we had 2 of them sitting in the warehouse
Yeah.
though. The other one's in our lower dungeon warehouse. And so so this plastic is chunky, it's thick, it's like it's different.
It's chunky.
Yeah. And then we open up this other Gaylord of plastic and it's super fluffy and very similar to when we ran the test video on the Canyon, which is where this plastic came from.
Yeah.
It was super fluffy and light and it was just mix it up and let's see if this is different. We emptied that dryer, or no, I kept running and then I put that stuff in the dryer for 2 hours and I just like kept running. And when I felt that was dry enough, we dumped that out, put it in, and then legal weight discs
Yeah.
started coming out. So it was just like a breath of fresh air for a moment, but then that opens up just a whole nother window of,
It's a breath of fresh air, but then you're like, wait, that means that when we're sourcing recycled plastic, this is the game that we play. Like, the fact of the matter is, the feedstock is, the disc feels the same, but realistically, the density is just varying throughout,
Yep.
which means we have to be extra careful on what we're making discs out of. And then one day we can be fully prepared to run something and it can go totally wrong like
yeah,
that.
Yeah. So it's just, and like when we got to that chunkier blend, it was actually underneath a fluffy blend in this Gaylord. So it wasn't just that
Yes.
it wasn't working. It was halfway through this, it changed. And that was just the first of the issues with plastic with this blend.
Welcome to making things out of recycled plastic. So that was the first. What was the second?
The second, as we got deeper in the fluffy palette, we started getting what's called splay, where the plastic just wasn't adhering to one another. And I ran 2 days thinking it might be process related because we were in a different Gaylord at this point.
We were running a new blend.
We were
that
running a
was
new
new to
blend.
us.
So
But the contamination was looking like pretty bad.
yeah, and so we tested so the ABS that we used to help make it stiffer and a little grippier, lighter. We tested a different a Gaylord of that to see if that was maybe the issue, and that batch came out even worse.
This is actually the perfect point to talk about variables, where you've got some new variables that you're working with.
Yeah.
So now you have to isolate the variables and go, okay, this new blend has some ABS in it. Let's take the ABS out. Let's just run the TPU on its own. We know it's probably going to be over the legal limit, but we can figure out if it's contaminated, and it was
Yeah, it was super contaminated because we ran it as itself.
very contaminated.
And so I was going through the Gaylords, and Jesse had this in a video recently as well. But I found 3 chunks of plastic, one super fluffy piece, one it was a discolored piece, but it was squishy still, and then one discolored piece that was really hard. And as every plastic manufacturer does, I bit it to tell which was squishy and which wasn't. And then moments later, Jesse followed up with biting it without checking if I had bit it first. But it was clear that this was likely the contaminant. And so we put that barrel to the side, we mixed new ones with the same plastic ratios and blends,
Yeah.
and it ran smooth.
Totally
So
fine.
it became clear that we had roughly a third of a Gaylord that had contaminated plastic because you could see this discolored hard chunks in it entirely. And then we had 2 pre-mixed barrels that we had to just put to the side and we'll find find something to do with it. But unfortunately, we had blended it and not knowing that at the time that was the issue, was the TPU. We thought it was something else that was causing problem, not the plastic we were running. But it took us 3 days to really solve that. So
Yeah.
we were down 3 days of runtime and didn't get a lot to show for it other than we now know what to look for.
Yeah, well, if the exact same problem happens again, we know what to look for. But if we've learned anything up to this point, it's going to be a different problem. And
Yeah.
then we're going to learn what to look for that problem.
Yep.
But, you know, this is the game of recycled plastic.
Right.
It's just a slow
Yeah.
uphill. Did you feel like you were just kind of pushing a rock up the hill and the rock just kept rolling back down?
I think I put the stool next to the machine and it just kind of sat there staring at the abyss of the warehouse, and
Kyle, when
trying
you
to figure it out.
when he gets super stressed, he takes his hat off and you just have this Einstein hair going. And I can walk into the back of the warehouse. You're 100 feet away, and I know how production's going that day by just seeing you from 100 feet away.
I definitely wear my emotions in my hair, so it works out pretty well.
So contamination was problem number 2 with that plastic, but there was a problem number 3, which you're still dealing with every single day.
So that plastic is super fluffy, and fluffy doesn't like to feed down the hopper easily.
It's literally the reason why virgin plastic is little beads, like little Dippin' Dots. It's because it feeds so much easier, and then it's consistent as the screw is picking it up. It's 100% consistent, and you never have to deal with what's called bridging, when the plastic is like stopping itself from flowing down, which is basically a regrind problem.
Yes.
And what we've learned, the denser the plastic and the smaller the chunks, the better it can feed down. And the lighter the plastic and the fluffier it is, the worse it gets, and the bigger the chunks. So it's literally bridging and just stopping itself from going down, which means you have to manually help it go down the feed throw, which is not good. Why so many problems with one plastic? Well, recycled plastic.
Yes.
That's why.
Yes.
Did you hear me say in a video recently, if I have one recommendation for anyone who wants to start a business, it's to not make a product out of 100% recycled plastic or TPU. Yeah. These complexities, I mean, we're talking about one mold, one plastic blend. We're not even talking about all our other molds and all our other plastic blends.
Yeah. Yeah. This one's the hardest blend to work with. One of the easier molds to make a disc out of, but the hardest blend of plastic to work with.
I don't know if it's one of the easier molds to work with, as much as we've learned the most leading into this mold.
Perhaps.
Inner core, we knew nothing because that was the first mold we started running.
Yeah.
And then, did we run Dune first or Ozone?
We ran Ozone. We didn't run Dune until June, yeah.
Yeah. This is when we brought manufacturing in-house. So we did Ozone. Like, all of those, a lot of those difficulties I look back on, I wonder if we were just so green and so new, where now it's like technically it should be harder to make a wide rim distance driver, right?
Yes. Yeah, everybody has said that we've talked to in manufacturing of discs. So.
And it's been easier because of how much we've learned.
I think we're just more prepared for the problem, so it doesn't seem as hard. Like Ozone was a lot of work to learn, but there was so many variables we didn't know there, including the valve gate, the plastic, all of it, wide rim. But we learned it a lot. So
those were the plastic problems. But then there was a day where you called me, and I was at the warehouse. And you don't call me when I'm at the warehouse. And all I remember is I got to my phone, saw that you had called. I'd missed the call. I go back into the warehouse and I'm walking back and you're walking, some might call it aggressively, toward me. Do you remember what happened that day?
So to preface this, we're grinding a whole bunch of phone cases and other things. So there's a lot of sounds going on. And I remember the mold opened and I just hear a clunk. And I grab the disc and I close it and I reach down and I find not only a chunk of steel, I find 2 screws.
A piece of the mold is now in your hand.
The piece of the mold is now in my hand, and I said, I don't know what this is. Should I stop it?
Yeah. And I'm looking at it, and it's literally a piece of the mold that has broken.
Yeah.
And we didn't design this mold, so how important that piece is to the integrity and structure and performance of the mold is a question mark in my head. And at the end of the day, we could debate whether or not we should stop it, but realistically, the answer is stop it.
Yeah.
So we immediately stopped running the mold, took it out of the machine entirely, opened it up on the table, tried to diagnose what was going on, And basically we're still wondering why it broke, because it's a weird spot. Like, it's not getting impact.
Yeah.
So maybe there was already some kind of, hairline fracture in that steel or something that was just waiting to break.
Yep.
But regardless, when we had it on the table, we looked at it and we were like, okay, let's just tighten the bolts. Let's put all the pieces back on. We'll just see if it runs smooth after this. And right now, as we speak, it's running with a broken piece on it, and that one's still TBD as well, right?
Yeah. We just we check some things, make sure it's okay, and it appears to be operating. So when we take Procyon out, we'll get a new piece remilled, and we'll have backups made, and then we'll be prepared for it in the future. But it's still not clear why that happened.
When I look back at every problem we solved, we've talked about this already. As a team, everything was like almost like we've trained for this problem before. We've had pieces of molds break, rip to the canyon mold. We've had, waterline problems, nozzle problems, plastic problems, contamination, feed throat problems. Like, we've run into most of this stuff before. Like, in that one day, the first day we tested the mold, it was like a year and a half of problem solving made that day possible.
Yeah.
So much that went into this has just been our education building up to it, which I think is the perfect time to say it's felt like Trash Panda University IRL, right? A lot of people have commented in the past that TPU, when we mention it, they're like, TPU has to stand for Trash Panda University. And so we made the official Trash Panda University merch for the Procyon.
Yeah, I mean, it still feels like a 101 level class, but here we are figuring it out.
One day we'll be at 201. Maybe the moral of the entire story is that we never graduate, and part of the fun of life is learning.
It's the best part about all of this.
Yeah. We're filming this on Thursday.
Yes.
We released to retailers on Monday.
Yes.
And we sold out to retail on Tuesday. And when I say sold out, what I mean is that we sold out of every disc we had on the shelf.
Yes.
So that was unexpected, which leads to probably the final problem that we're in the middle of, which is we can't have any more problems because we need to release this disc very soon.
Nope. So full steam ahead. It's make as many discs as we can for all of you, and keep making as many discs, because it's a great mold.
Some would say we've learned absolutely nothing, because the problem with the inner core was that we published the release date, and we already published this release date, and we haven't made them all.
We have yet to learn that lesson. That's 4 discs released in a row.
You just get too excited about a disc, and we want you to be able to throw it as well. Like, we get too stoked, and it's just, what can we do to make it happen? But if you're seeing this video, that means all has gone well up to this point. The release is still on, and we will see you next week. Yeah?
Yes.